Okay, so I'll jump around the agenda just for the interest of time. I'd like to welcome Austin Naughton, the chair of the Ward 2 ANC Redistricting Taskforce, to give us an update on their progress.
Great, thank you. Hello, everybody. Also acknowledging that we have several Ward 2 Redistricting Taskforce members here. Monica, representing the Georgetown, Burleigh, Hillendale ANC. Paul, representing DuPont Circle ANC, and James, representing the Foggy Bottom West End ANC. And James and I were just in the meeting drawing lines on the map. Juan, are you okay? I share screen about this? If you're nodding your head, that's good. We get here. All right. So I'm going to share the screen of just what we were doing so that people can see the process. Are you seeing the map on the screen? Okay, great. So I'm just going to zoom out of it. This is the latest version of a draft map of the ANCs that we have been drafting. And I just met with James and two other people that have submitted maps. I'm going to, so nobody needs to memorize anything on this. Nothing's final. It's just an example of what we've been doing. And what we can do by going onto it is if I go to review on the map, let's go actually create. What we can do is just look and see this area. Let's see, I'll pick an area of where I live. So if you go on to by this area that's by 11th Street and L Street and Massachusetts Avenue, you can click on this and it changes the numbers. Hold on, let me go down here. It changes the number of people and associates those people with the target 2A04. But by doing that, I'm going to put the numbers out of order. We want to keep the numbers between 1900 and 2100. So that restores it. I'm going to go back now into presentation mode just so you can see context of why we're doing this. I'm going to present. So these are the meetings that we have scheduled as public meetings for the task force. We're having our next one on the 23rd, and then the next two on the 28th and 31st. We've had a town hall in February and another one on March 14th where members of the public could give testimony. And that was the oral testimony on those dates. And people can still submit written testimony and or draft maps by March 22nd at 11:59 p.m. And you can see how to do that by going to the brookpinto.com/ANC-redistricting website. These are the 14 members of the task force. Every ANC is represented. The downtown ANC has one member. The 2B, the DuPont Circle, has 3 members because Councilmember Anita Bonds appointed someone in 2B. And we were all volunteers appointed by Councilmember Brooke Pinto otherwise. For anyone who's not familiar with the jargon of advisory neighborhood commissions, we call them ANCs. Single member districts, we call them SMDs. As a task force, we're striving to be inclusive and transparent with how we do this. And we have to be clear that we are not supposed to care around the prospects of a current ANC member or commissioner or a future one, someone who runs. We cannot make our lines whether we're helping someone or hurting someone. The council timeline is what we're focused upon here, that by April 1st, so just about 10 days, we have to have our final report due. We started meeting in January, and then there are going to be more hearings done by the council before they vote later in the spring. These are examples of meetings that we've done for every area. Small group meetings, large group meetings, etc. This is just publicity we've done about this. We shared via email, social media, and through ANCs. And this is just reiterating around the due date on March 22nd at 11:59 for written testimony and draft maps. our guiding principles about keeping meetings open to the public. We're only supposed to be using the 2020 census data related to population. We have a goal to not dilute the voting strength of minority citizens. So in fact, when I just met with James and 2 other map drafters in the Foggy Bottom area, we specifically tried to construct a single member district that would try and assist in having a cluster of non-white residents. And in a diverse ward like Ward 2, we are trying to make sure that we take that very seriously. We're also trying to keep census blocks together. And within one ward, there are some examples of single member districts that cross ward lines. We considered that in one area with Ward 5. And as of yesterday, Ward 5 has said, no, thanks, we're not planning to do that. And we respect that. And as I mentioned, we're trying to get to about 2,000 residents. And you can see Alyssa Silverman's website has the overall redistricting process. When we submit our report, it's to present alternative recommendations about the boundaries of ANCs and SMDs. I asked at our town hall to Alyssa Silverman's legislative director, does alternative recommendations mean more than one map? And he said, please not. He's dealing with all 8 wards. He would like one clear recommended map, and we're going to strive to do that. We can also give other recommendations around how ANCs operate. And this is around the numbers, because you're going to see in a bit, we have 2 single member districts that are well below the 1900 range, and Walter's nodding because he lives in one of them. But as long as they're both within the same ANC, which is Sheridan Colorama, I'm presenting at that next meeting in a few minutes, then the council may be okay with that. So where we are building consensus, already the task force members from 2C, 2D, and 2E are in agreement within their own boundaries. We started off with 2E. Monica.
Say that one more time, please, Austin. I apologize for interrupting.
It's okay.
Hello.
I'll explain it with the map. So
okay.
Monica and Eric met with us, and there was no competing map from the 2 of them.
Okay.
With 2C, there's no competing maps. 2D, no competing maps. So there's consensus already in these 3 ANCs that the task force members are in agreement around what's going to be presented. Does that address your point, China? All right.
Yes. Thank you.
So then we went from 2C, talking about how do we grow a larger downtown ANC because they lost population due to redistricting. And then we went and met with 2F and 2G. We met at the same time. So 2F and 2G, 2F doesn't have competing maps. Evelyn and I are the representatives. We're pretty much going along with, we're listening to all the bordering ANCs and just trying to go along with what they and we're hearing from our constituents. 2G, the Shaw neighborhood, on the other hand, did have competing maps, 3 competing maps. But the 2 task force members from there agree on the one that they want to present. So there's, in that sense, they have consensus. So Evelyn and I attended their meetings because
Austin, what does that mean if they have some areas that compete? How did they agree to present the same map if that map wouldn't have what the other person would want?
We went through all the criteria that the other people presented for what they wanted out of their maps and to see what were the pros and cons, and then the task force members feel that their map does the best job of representing. Overall, everyone wants a united Shaw. That's why you see this area a different color. It's very close to where I live at Blagden Alley, Naylor Court. They don't know if they're going to stay with 2F or join Shaw. This area is part of the Shaw Historic District. All 3 of the maps from Shaw include this in it. The others were a little bit different with how they did the single member districts over here. One of them tried to include 192 people from Ward 5. That's not going to happen because Ward 5 doesn't want to get into that. So there wasn't enormous differences. And then this area that we have a ZZ with 0 people is the Mount Vernon Square Carnegie Library census block.
Yeah.
It's overseen by Events DC, as is the convention center, and there's an adjacent hotel here. So the downtown ANC, which now has this, no one's opposing that this will all become part of the same single member district. Right now, this is part of 2F, this is 6E, and this is 2C. So what we're going to present is a unified area that the vast majority of people so far have indicated support for.
And Austin, when these maps are presented before they are, how do I say, voted on, or will there be an illustration of, for example, I'm just using this for example, dark lines where the districts currently exist, and then maybe dotted lines where the proposed single member districts will exist, like on Elizabeth's on Councilmember Silverman's website or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question.
We'll be able to compare.
Yeah, I don't know that answer because that was done during the ward redistricting process.
Right.
And all I can tell you is that the mapping tool that we mortals use is not that sophisticated.
Okay.
Maybe they'll do it like you see, I have the map back here, right? The hard copy. Maybe they'll have a way to do it once they get into the hearings, but we don't have that capability right now.
Okay.
The one thing I might add, Austin, if it's okay, just as a general rule of thumb, is if you live in a single member district today and you think about what its boundaries are, it is almost a certainty that those boundaries will have changed when this new map is adopted. You might still be in the single member district for the most part that you have been a part of, but given the population changes all over the ward, I haven't really done a full analysis of it, but I don't know of any ANC or any SMD that is exactly the same as it was, or would have been in 2010.
Yeah, it would be nice if they are able to do that. And then this is a building consensus slide that's very aspirational, right? So right now, 2A is down. As of about 20 minutes ago, we got down from 6 competing maps to 2. So at this point, if we can't reconcile those differences, the 14-member task within 2A, the 14-member task force will do that. And it's the same for 2B. We had a small group meeting on Friday of everyone who submitted a map, and there were 4 competing maps. We got down to 2. And then just yesterday, Paul, who's on this call, and I met, and he represented 2 other map drafters, and we got those down to 1 as of today. So that's how we're kind of narrowing the funnel, I guess, in order to try and build consensus. And now the next slide says, how will we as a task force make a determination if we can't get to consensus about the let's say the 2 or 3 or 4 competing maps, what voting mechanism are we going to do it? And that will be decided, I believe, at Wednesday's public meeting of the task force so that everybody can see how we're deliberating about that. This is the example of the Shaw map that had consensus. Well, I'd say that the task force members had consensus. And then these were the pinch points that Paul was using that language around. The most complicated area, in my opinion, is where 2A, Foggy Bottom, 2B, DuPont, 2F, Logan, and 2C, downtown, were meeting. And what has happened is that we're going to grow the downtown area, and there's not a lot of controversy about that at all. That's just another example of it. Here's next steps. So I'm having these 3 meetings today.
Austin, I have one more, I think was one more question.
Go ahead.
Is there some thought on, or in considering, like you mentioned, the diversity, was it just on race or ethnicity, or is there also like, and I know this is more complicated, but I'm just wondering, are there some other factors like
students,
income, or yes,
students,
Okay.
would be one.
Okay.
If you go over to Foggy Bottom, there is the Watergate complex
Yeah.
and Columbia Plaza are
Yeah.
almost adjacent to each other. So
Yeah.
there has been lively discussion. Could they be in an adjacent single member district? Or does it make sense to make sure that they have their own single member districts so that people of different income levels have a chance to have their representation? Also, renters, owners, students. Yeah, so while the data may not, the data that we work with may not take that information into consideration, the representatives, certainly Monica in Georgetown and James in GW, are taking those factors of what do you do with residence halls?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. No problem. Great questions.
But I just want to add though, oh, well, he's.
Go ahead. Go.
Wait, the slide is what you're about to add. That we're not the final decision, China, that we make our, recommendations, then it goes back. Well, Austin has, what's the next slide, Austin, after this?
Well, and that means that not everyone, like that's what you consider, but that doesn't mean that other folks in other wards, right, made use similar criteria to determine.
Exactly. And there were people who came that were very vocal at our town halls that didn't necessarily agree with us, but this is what we're presenting. So they can still speak out, they can still go to hearings. But I hope we would get great weight for the amount of time we spent, on this. I hope.
Yeah, we're really trying. So for example, someone in Shaw was early on talking about, wouldn't it be nice, as Shaw has changed so much, to try and make the reflect the diversity, like multiracial single member districts. And we paused at that because we were like, well, then are we diluting the potential of people where there are clusters of non-white people who are living in a neighborhood that used to be mostly Black, right? And so we have paid attention to that. In my zone, it's mainly Hispanic residents, right? So yes, we are paying attention to it. And then just going along, so I've already mentioned these dates. You can register to come to these task force meetings by going onto this website. Our report's due by April 1st. And this is where the written testimony goes to V. Casarubias at dccouncil.us. I've already shared these, and I've mentioned the next steps. So Monica, Paul, James, anything to add?
Can you repeat the next steps again, Austin?
Sure.
I apologize.
That's okay. I'm presenting in a few minutes. I'm going to the ANC 2D monthly meeting. All of us, we presented at every ANC meeting and then some. We've gone back. Monica and Eric did theirs. James's, we had a special meeting on redistricting. In 2F, we've had a small group meeting following the ANC presentation. So we are, there'll always be people who say you haven't done enough outreach. Given what we've done, it would be pretty hard to say that we haven't tried to engage, and in two-way streets. You folks here were my first meeting, my first presentation. So now it's at the tail end. Paul, James, Monica, anything else you want to add?
Now, what I've liked about just this whole process that we really have, our committee has been very diverse. We've been represented for all of Ward 2, the community, and people have been very, very open about their feelings on various topics. So I think everyone who's wanted to have the opportunity to talk, we've kept our town halls open all night to make sure everyone had a chance to speak. So I think we've tried to be as collaborative as, not everybody's going to agree on everything, but I definitely think there are opportunities for everyone to have their voice heard.
Yes, and I just want to make sure I address this part because I mentioned it earlier. So this is the smallest ANC in DC. It's Sheridan, Colorama. And we had very lively, which is the euphemism, email chains and other discussions around why are we allowed to have 2 SMDs that are well below the threshold of 1900. And what the person from Alyssa Silverman's office put in writing and then came and spoke at our town hall and said, as long as within an ANC that the SMDs have similar populations, that is not considered dilution. that they still have the same weight within an ANC. So that took a lot of heat out of the conversations along the border areas along here about what to do with it. And what these folks here in 2D are saying is we're residential and we mainly, our expertise is in zoning and issues related to embassies, the over 100 delegations, whatever the number is that's over there. They're more like Embassy Row in Ward 3, except it's a denser residential community. So we recognize not everyone's delighted about that, but as a task force, we're moving on to, let's call it even pettier things, right? So like things that are just even very micro topics that we're going to have to sort out. And I say petty in quotes with like anyone looking outside of it be like, why are people arguing over this? Obviously, people have very strong beliefs and reasons for why they are. I don't think they're being petty people, but from the outside, sometimes it feels like, why are we arguing about this 2-block area?
And Austin and Monica and others, James, is this the I understand that was a particular issue for 2D, but broadly, out of as you've traveled the ward, is what was one of like the biggest contentious, places of contention?
Shaw.
Yeah, well, and I think Austin did also a good job of outlining, it's around where the ANCs meet each other. And it's the, where Foggy Bottom and DuPont Circle meet. It's where Logan Circle and DuPont Circle meet. It's those areas of where you get people that are because people understand if an SMD is in your, ANC, that it's part of your neighborhood. And some people view this process as sort of a reorganization of the neighborhood lines, which isn't necessarily the case. Obviously, we're not out here moving, buildings around. We're just making the math work with the rules that we've been given. I think figuring out, trying to get past a lot of that sort of what is the noise and what are the really important things we need to be listening to as we try to figure out where those lines should be, because there are people that don't support any changes.
Yeah.
And then there are people that will recognize that, they don't want to change, but sometimes change is the only option, and figuring out.
Well, James, that's what I was going to ask you, with DC being such a, and this is just for my personal gratification to know, with this being such a democratic city, was there a lot of, well, I don't want anyone else in our, you know what I mean? I won't
say a lot. I won't say a lot. They were just, I think people really were trying to be collaborative. I mean, there are a few outliers, but everyone's passionate about their area, their community.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so, and I would even say early on, we thought Shaw was going to be more complicated than it ended up being, because they had to pretty much reform as an ANC. So these 4 single member districts were part of a bigger 6E over here, and they got separated. So we thought it would be more complicated, and it hasn't really been. And I think it's what Monica just said. There's a definitely appreciation for collaboration. And we just don't know what's going to happen with this area, and I think the task force will decide.
Thank you, guys. I know it's a lot of, I've been in situations before where I have had to get people to agree, and it's even more difficult when you're talking about them agreeing on their backyard, NIMBY, right? Like them agreeing on what's happening in their backyard. It's different if I have an opinion on what's going on Ward 8 or Ward 3. But I might feel totally different about diversity, inclusion, and all of the things when it comes to who my neighbor, who I'm going to have to deal with. So I say that as like a not up for discussion, but I just think we often don't think about even ourselves, biases and things that we have when it comes to our backyard. Is a different conversation than when you're talking about what other people should be doing. So I appreciate you all having to have these conversations with folks, because it's difficult having to confront the changes within the city, and more specifically in Ward 2, that you might not think about on a daily basis.
Yeah, and for example, for me, we're all amateurs at this part, like using the, we're not mapping professionals or any of this. I could see, so China, I know you operate around the country. Imagine if it's contentious here in DC, right? What is it like in these other places that need independent commissions? I would argue in favor this should be done by an independent commission of professionals, and then do the road show where busybodies like us, right, might want to weigh in and stuff. But the learning curve for how to do this, while intellectually interesting, I'd rather spend the time discussing than having to learn how to use a mapping program.
Sure.
But we're not there yet, but I certainly would recommend that. There are professionals. There's many of them in our midst.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, I'm sure I speak for all of the task force members here and most of those that didn't join us. We are indebted to Austin and to Victoria and the people in the council member's office. This would have been, I can think of some colorful language for what this process might have looked like had Austin not been the chair of this task force. So we are incredibly indebted to him. And I think it shows truly how excellent he is as a moderator and as someone who can bring people together. And I'm just very happy that we've been able to benefit from his experience and expertise on this.
And now I'm going to hire James as my PR consultant, right? So, but seriously, you folks in Ward 2 Dems, like this, we know how we operate within the DC Democratic Party. We can agree to disagree. And just the timeline of how we're getting to know strangers and we don't really know each other. And that's been a really tricky part for this. I'm going to bounce. Thanks for the kind words, but it's nice working with Monica and James again and getting to know Paul and the other folks. I'm going to go to the 2D meeting. Juan was very passionate about this for the ward redistricting process, so I hope he's having fun watching us do this part as well.
Well, thank you very much to all the task force members for their hard work. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, Paul, did you want to say anything?
Just to echo what James said, that Austin's role as chair and to also look after the interests and needs of 2F has been remarkable, and it's been wonderful work together. It has been, I think, difficult, and we're not done yet, but I think we will get there. And Austin is making sure the wheels don't fall off the train, or the task force doesn't jump into the abyss. Every week there is a new metaphor for how Austin has saved us from ourselves. So we'll just have to hope it lasts for another 10 days.
I only call on people who say nice things. Monica, I didn't call on you. No, kidding. I'm going to the next meeting. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye,
Austin. Thank you very much.
Bye, Paul.
Well, thank you very much. That was quite comprehensive, but I think very important that we get this information out there. So going back to the agenda, did everyone have a chance to look at the January minutes? I can put the link in the notes, in the chat. Excuse me. Give me 1 second.
I just put the agenda for tonight in there, Juan. So we can have that in there as well.
So this is the link to the notes from the January meeting. Remember, there was no February meeting because we were busy figuring out a timetable for our regular meetings, and our bylaws require 2 weeks notice. So we couldn't technically have a public meeting in February, but nevertheless, we will be meeting on the third Monday of every month going forward. So hopefully this works with everybody's very busy schedules. So if you take a moment to click on the link and look at the notes, look them over. If there are any changes, please indicate now so that Walter can make the appropriate edits. And we'll go from there. You can just indicate once you're finished reading the notes. That'd be great. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the January 25th minutes? Indicate by raising your hand. Okay, I have a motion. A second.
Second.
All righty. Notes are accepted. Thank you very much. Treasurer's report. China.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So,
China, not James.
so as of today, so first I will say that we filed, what it would have been March 10th, I think it was, yeah. We filed that report, no big changes. Consistently for right now, our charges are MailChimp and Squarespace, right? It's just to keep up our contact, the platform that we use for contacts, and then the platform we use, both of those are yours, honey. One is for lunch tomorrow. I'm sorry, guys. The platforms that we use to maintain our website, to send emails, and then our contacts database, right? So that's what we've really been spending money on for the most part until we have more events. That being said, our balance in our checking account is $8,122.17. And what would have been, and I actually need to look into this because so our bank, I don't know if I want to say, so it switched from, and some of you all might have noticed as you've been driving it around, SunTrust to Truist. So what we were using as our money marketing account actually is identified as checking now. So I have to better understand the legal parameters, like what that actually means. But the balance is consistent at, we got a 2-cent increase that's from interest, $1,662.16. But again, I need to have a conversation with them now that they are identifying it as a checking account. Are the benefits, pros and cons similar to that of what we had originally taken it out as, which was a money market account? Any questions?
Yeah, so Truist is the merger between, I want to say SunTrust and, was it PNC?
BB&T.
Oh, BB&T. Yeah.
Okay.
I had accounts of both, and I don't like them.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're hard to get answers. They're not.
You don't like BB&T or you don't like Truist?
Truist.
Oh, okay.
They have not been good customers. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
They just have not.
It's been challenging for us as well. Let's put it that way. But you know, when you have a chance trying to look into that, if you need me to come along with you as the co-signer on the account, let me know.
Okay.
And then, you know, frankly, after your due diligence, if you feel that we need to make changes, then we can start making inquiries about other banks in the area.
Okay.
You know, I'm not against it, so long as we, honestly, I think for our sake, it's more of an issue of having something that's good customer service.
That's right.
Right. Frankly, I'm of the mind right now that we be a little thrifty, you know, because we don't have an incoming revenue source. As a side note, I did inquire with the executive director of the DC Democratic Party to see if they have any relationship whatsoever with Act Blue, the program that's used to obtain contributions for candidates, because some of the affiliate organizations use that. So apparently they do not, but I may reach out to them and inquire about what the cost is for the service, because that might be an avenue for us to easily, get contributions and or membership dues to down the road to grow our balance.
Well, I do know just from working with candidates that Act Blue, unless they've gone up in the last year or so, they are cheaper. Their fees and such are cheaper than like a PayPal or, whatever else. So yeah, I do know that they are, because, and it's mostly because Act Blue accepts donations into their platform, which is why they're able to then pass over to us.
Yes.
The lower fees. PayPal, of course, doesn't. PayPal is a corporation purely. So yeah, they tend to be cheaper, but you should still check and ask, because also Act Blue is nice because Democrats, when they're giving money, like to see it, because Act Blue is strictly for Democrats. So yeah.
Yeah, there's some other options. There's a comparable service through the folks that do Vote Builder. But if I don't know what the cost is on that, but I'm presuming it's going to be significantly more expensive, presumably. But I'm going to inquire about those two at the very least and see what I can find. But I think it's going to be prudent to have something like this in place, just for the sake of being able. My concern is I don't want to have to rely on the DC Democratic Party for financial assistance. There are going to be times when we're going to certainly want to, but I think it's going to be important for us to generate some opportunities for revenue on our own. But we'll discuss that at a later meeting. So the meat and potatoes of tonight's meeting, candidate forums. So yesterday I had a discussion with the representative from the Ward 6 Dems. They invited us to collaborate with them on a co-hosting an Attorney General forum on May 16th, which coincides literally with our monthly meeting, our May meeting. So the idea is this: Ward 6 Democrats is partnering with the Hill Rag to host the forum at the Hill Center in Southeast, but it will also be simulcast online. So it's going to be a hybrid event. So you have the option of attending in person or attending online. Basically, what they would like from us are 2 or 3 volunteers to assist with the in-person event, and basically the logistics. The Hill Rag is handling the logistics in terms of the venue and the audio visual. My understanding is that Ward 6 Democrats is contributing a small amount toward to offset the audio visual costs. Once I identify what they're giving, I'll bring that back to you to see if I can receive approval from you all to make a contribution as well. I think it's prudent. But Elizabeth Engel, the chair of Ward 6 Dems, we had a good conversation once we were discussing logistics for the Welcome to the Wards event that we did a few weeks back. But I think we have the opportunity to do more collaborative events like this. So I think it'll be a good opportunity, but also this helps spread some of the workload.
I think it's a good idea because Ward 6 is one of the strongest wards, second to 3. We are a mighty but strong few.
Yes.
And the fact that you and her have been in contact, I definitely think it's a good idea. It puts us out there. I just don't think we can pull off something by ourselves to get the amount of people.
Correct.
And I think a donation to help, even if it's small, I think if they're taking on the bulk of the work, I think it's the least we could give something.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And the smart thing is that they're doing it hybrid. So not everybody's comfortable going out in person yet, but at least folks have the option. The key thing for us is to help promote it And then the other option, I think, I know originally we were talking about maybe doing 4 forums. The fact of the matter is logistically and just kind of bandwidth, because all of us are incredibly busy, it might be prudent to just do as a partner on this AG forum. And then I would like to do a mayoral forum. I'd like to, initially I had wanted to do a forum for next month's meeting, so the April meeting and then the May. I think doing a mayoral, pulling off a mayoral within the next month is going to be a little much of a stretch, even if we do it online. But perhaps we can find another date in May to do a mayoral forum.
With somebody, I hope.
I think, given that the number of candidates is a little smaller, we could conceive it. And if we keep it online, potentially we can do this very, it won't involve as much logistics on our part. But that being said, Stonewall Democrats and the young DC Young Dems are still interested in collaborating with us. I will reach out to them about this to see if they're still game. But I think it's important to do it in May. Bear with me a sec. Because you see, yeah, China, maybe you remember it's going to be, I think it's May 16th that ballots get sent out.
I think it's, yeah.
14th to the 16th thereabouts, that the ballots get put in the mail by the Board of Elections. So if we do something, in that early to mid-May timeframe, I think we stand a good chance of getting folks to come out. And then also, the only other thing I think that we would have to do is maybe just make sure that we're not competing against another ward organization.
Well, they know their schedule. I mean, they can tell you that. I guess, how many people are running on Democrat candidates are there for mayor right now?
I was just looking at the Board of Elections list.
Mm-hmm.
I've got, let's see here, Attorney General, blah, 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 blah. Sorry.
It's Democrats, not all the other people.
Yeah, I've got 4 people here, which includes Kenyon McDuffie and Brian Schlab. I'm sure I'm
talking about for mayor. How many people are running for mayor?
Oh, for mayor. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 people are running. There's no way 9 people are turning in signatures, so it'll probably be 6 or 7 or something like that.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is, by that point we'll find out who's on the ballot.
And we'll know in like a week the signature deadline is this Wednesday.
Yes,
so.
This Wednesday at 5.
Sorry, China, you're on mute.
She's not talking to us. She's talking to somebody else. I guess the other, okay, I'm just trying to think. The other option, which I know we did, others have done,
Mm-hmm.
which is not ideal, but is to invite all the candidates to just come speak for 5 minutes. And, if we can't pull off a forum, that's just another thought. If we just can't, like, if the mayor really wants a vote, I know I know the Democratic Party did that for the council race.
Mm-hmm.
They allowed if people wanted to come talk for 5 minutes. It wasn't a question, it might have been a couple things in the chat, but that's just another thought, that if we can't find another group, we can't pull it off.
Mm. What do you all think?
So the one thing I saw was that the only organization I've seen thus far that's going to be putting on a debate that perhaps is even a word like a Democratic aligned one is GW is putting together a attorney general debate and a mayoral debate. And I think the date, they're doing it one night after the other. So they're doing the attorney general debate on April 26th, which is a Tuesday, and then they're doing the mayoral debate on Wednesday, the 27th. So that gives them enough time to get through the signature process and then the challenge process, which will take like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then we'll really know at the end of April who are going to be the people on the ballot.
Yeah.
I think for the May meeting, if it's not, I'm not sure I caught whether that other in-person event is happening on the night of our May meeting.
The AG one, yes, that actually coincides exactly with our May meeting. So we can do that in lieu of the May meeting.
I'm just thinking, because if it wasn't, or maybe we could just do the next Monday, we could do that and have everybody come the same night. Because I don't imagine we'd want to come together twice, and we could do, maybe a 30 minutes for the AG people to speak, and then half an hour or an hour for the mayoral people to speak if they want to. I think that would be something that people might tune in for, or perhaps, we could just ask 1 or 2 questions of them. We don't need to make it a debate, but it could be like a.
But we're doing something. Why would we do two events a week apart?
Well, remember the Ward 6 event on the 16th of May is already preset and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
thought
we're the ones tagging on to that one.
Sure. I'm just thinking if we wanted to do our own thing, because I wasn't sure if that was, I had to take a phone call, so I didn't catch what you mentioned. But
it's a set event. They'll do the bulk of the work, but that's for AG, not mayor.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
I was just saying, if we can't pull off a mayoral, that I know for the Democratic Party is just invited people that pop in the meeting. I mean, it's not ideal, but I'm just saying that's also an option. It's not till the end of June. We still have time.
Right.
People,
yeah, I mean,
the
thing is, granted, with mail-in ballots and the like, I think people are gonna be making decisions earlier.
I personally,
so
this is just me, and I'm not trying to downgrade us doing or not work. I think if Ward 2 can pull off a successful AG program, being that we haven't done a lot of programs this year, have a large turnout online and virtually, I think that is enough. I mean, that's not to say that we can't explore if the young Dems, I think if we really just do something well, that's just my opinion. I want us, again, it's 5 of us, I just want us to be realistic. I mean, it'd be great if we could do our own thing, but it's, it's already in the March.
Yeah, but your point is well taken, and it has definitely has merit. But I think, I'd like to see the mayoral candidates here, because I think it's important, and frankly, that's the ticket that's probably getting the most action, and I think it's going to be important.
I'm not saying not to do it. I just think I'll see what the others say. I just think it would be if we can partner again with.
Oh no, definitely, yeah. The objective, if we do a mayoral,
I just don't think we can pull it off ourselves.
Yeah,
that's all.
I mean, and format wise.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, China.
Well, no, I was just going to say any opportunity that we can partner, and it's essentially, I hate to say it this way, but it's just us on the line, and it's just Walter. I like that mirror. I have a similar one right here. It's long though. This way is why.
Thank you.
I think any opportunity, to Monica's point, that we can partner on something, just name only, and even if it is in person, like I don't mind volunteering to show up to something.
I'm not going to be on one. I want to be there with you.
Yeah. So the more opportunities we have to partner with other organizations across, I think that's cool, because we have a reputation in Ward 2 of not having any problems. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though of course we have residents here, like people are like, oh, no one lives in Ward 2, and no one, like, oh, it's DuPont Circle. It's just a bunch of, bars, government buildings. So anyway, I think any opportunity we have to partner with another organization, those are really light, easy lifts.
Yes.
To Monica's point, but I do think, to Juan's point, we need to be like the host of something and then have other folks partner with us, but we are like the host. So I think both make sense. We just have to figure out what those things are.
Yeah. And, given, and China knows, there's a lot of ways we can take this in terms of the format, but I like a very simple format. You do a 2-minute intro, each sponsor organization gets 1 or 2 key questions, and then there's a closing statement, and you call it a day. Because if you're talking about, let's say, 4 or 5 candidates, that's, we can be done in a reasonable amount of time. I'm leaning toward doing this online. If we can look at an in-person venue, but like the way I look at it is cost and AV, and that can get out of whack really quickly. And the issue becomes, right now we don't have a core of volunteers to pull from. But an event like this could expose us to a brand new set of individuals that live in Ward 5 that we can use as a springboard toward other activities. So,
and also if you said Stonewall, Juan, because I know in the past, a lot of Stonewall, well, it was called something else, but now Stonewall have lived in Ward 2. So those are people that we could try to get to join us, our efforts.
Correct. Yeah. And they're definitely interested. And my impression of Stonewall now is that it's a little bit broader, a little bit more diverse. But still there is a good core from within Ward 2. So I think we have a lot of opportunities for mutual collaboration and benefit. Just to summarize, so presumably I have your permission to continue discussions with Ward 6 Democrats to proceed with co-hosting this event on our behalf. Is that correct? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, correct.
And Brian, perfect, thank you. Okay, and then secondly, I have permission to reach out to the DC Young Dems and our counterparts at Stonewall for a mayoral. Perfect. I would mention the DC Latino Caucus, but they're doing something literally Wednesday night, day after tomorrow. The format's more akin to like the DC for Democracy, and it's all the current races. So I don't know that anybody from DC Latino Caucus is going to have bandwidth for another forum. I'm handling the logistics on the back end for the Zoom and all that stuff. So I'll be on Zoom for hours on Wednesday night. But we have a big turnout planned, so that's going to be good. Just moving forward, old business. Monica, I know that you had reached out to N Street Village and that there was, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't a possibility right now of any in-person activity, but they are doing online fundraising, if I remember correctly.
And collections. I reached out, so Ward 6 reached out to us to see about partnering for a service project.
Okay.
And no, it wasn't Ward 6. Who was I talking to, Juan?
Yes, I believe it was Ward 6.
Yeah, it was somebody from Ward 6. So they want to do with their young Dems, young or college Dems, I think it was.
Yes, college.
So I looked at the N Street Village, and it was a no right now, because of COVID. I called the Georgetown Ministries, which is our day center in Georgetown, same thing. The issue is 1 or 2 people is fine, but a large group showing up is the issue.
Okay.
And that's kind of what she had. But they still are desperate. And so maybe just some thought that we can consider a drive at the forum. Put our name on that too. Put our name on that, because we don't know if we'll have another in person. Gotcha. And for more, I can call N Street Village again. But remember, when I met with them in February, their number one thing they needed were cleaning products.
Okay. So
and then just on a side note, we're supporting, my sorority is supporting N Street Village. We have a partnership with them. And one of the number one things that the women have expressed that they need, which we never even knew, is umbrellas. And so we are for April shower theme. So everybody have an umbrella, let me know, I'll come by, pick it up. So we're taking new and slightly used umbrellas. So that's just another thing. Umbrellas are expensive, but everybody can go to the dollar store and get a thing of bleach, and again, I can find out what the theme is, but I just strongly suggest it's in Ward 2, it's Women's Month, well, not in April, but I think that would be my suggestion.
Thank you. That's excellent. I see Brian put in the chat, maybe bread for the city now in Ward 2.
Well, that could be for an in-person, yeah, for,
Yeah,
yeah, that too.
The other thing too, like, I know Brian had mentioned, you know, on Brian's feed, he's always reposting neighborhood cleanups, and I was thinking maybe a neighborhood cleanup would be good for us to participate in, because I believe, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, typically it's the LCCA that hosts those.
Yes, there are a bunch now. So LCCA has theirs I want to say second Saturday of every month. So theirs are monthly. Councilmember Pinto is hosting one. She hasn't announced it yet, but she's announcing it soon. The day after Earth Day on Sunday, the 24th of April. So we can participate in that probably.
Mhm.
Wiltberger Street, which is now Ward 2, that's by the Howard Theater there. They are having a cleanup on Earth Day, as is the Citizens Association of Georgetown. Is that what CAG? So there are a lot.
And what day is Earth Day, Brian,
I
again?
think the 23rd of April, so a month away now.
Okay.
I didn't know about the Georgetown one. Is that new?
I don't know all the details. I'm just, these are all living in my brain.
Okay.
Well, if you can share those with us, that would be
Okay.
great. Because I think, give me a second, I see Susie in the weight room. Okay.
Yeah, and Earth Day is actually that Friday, the 22nd. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think a lot of stuff is going to be happening throughout the weekend, but I think a cleanup would be nice. That would give us an opportunity. I mean, I think we can do, you know, it'll be expensive, but if we pay it out of our own pocket as opposed to, we might be able to, the weather should be decent. You know, we can get some shirts made quickly with the logo on them, something nice and simple that we can wear and kind of show that who we are.
I
like Earth Day activities because you can bring kids. So I don't know what part of our ward is like these cleaning up, but I like it because you can bring the whole family, which is
well, personally, I was just saying if we could all do all of them, everyone take one of them. Like if you're passionate about Howard, if you're passionate about because the amount of encampments over in Georgetown have grown. And so I'm not saying we clean up encampments, but I'm just saying, you know, it's been a hot topic.
There are encampments in Georgetown, Monica?
In Rock Creek Park, right when you enter Georgetown off to K Street, it's gotten really bad.
Real, okay.
It's real bad. So I mean, just a thought: if we had T-shirts and we have all these photo moments, Ward 2 Dems helped with Earth Day. That's just one thought, you know. And if Brian can give us a list. Then like some people may want to do Saturday, some people may want to do Sunday, but take pictures, have your Ward 2 shirt on. Yeah. And that's something we could put in the newsletters, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, worst case scenario, yeah, if you know, I could promote all of those I can put all of those on the website calendar and put them in the email just to let people know, because our list right now is roughly 400 and change. But there are folks that are all across the ward anyway, so there might be one that might be more convenient to them than others. But
I'll
then
send
you have your literature. Hey, I'm here from Ward 2 Dem. See my shirt. Here's a little palm card or something, a bumper sticker. I don't know. Hope you join our Ward 2 meeting.
Yeah, no, we can definitely do something. Okay.
We should also have some forms to register people to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, Earth Day. No, I'm just trying to think of the deadlines. That'll work. That'll be well before the deadlines. In terms of like changing or updating your registration in time for the primary, because I want to say the deadline for that is sometime in May. So we should be good if we're doing something around Earth Day. That's a great point, Susie.
But it's not only to change your address, but to get new people.
No, yes, of course. Yep. But that's an excellent point, Susie. Thank you. Going into the next topic under old business branding. So if we're going to move forward with the assisting, volunteering, having at least 2 or 3 folks volunteer with Ward 6 stamps for their Attorney General Forum in May, ideally we should be kitted out with some t-shirts, I would think. Question, do we know of a small business in Ward 2 that provides that kind of service, t-shirts and the like? I've used some online services for different organizations that I'm a part of or have been a part of.
I know a guy who does a lot of shirts for other DC organizations, not Ward 2 to answer your question, but I know a Black guy. He does shirts. He's a local guy, does shirts for a lot. Like some of his shirts are even in the Whole Foods. He does a lot of shirts for us, yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'm willing to look at anybody if they're competitive and do good work. So
agreed.
But I think if we can do a small run just for us, if we're going to be out there as the leadership, initially that'll be and I'm willing to pay for it out of pocket myself, just because why do we want to, eat into our account right now? But going forward, if we do want to have branded materials, theoretically, we can have that as part of, membership. So theoretically, if you get, if you join Ward 2 Democrats, part of the membership may include, a t-shirt or something, but I think it'll be a good opportunity to, to spread the word and brand ourselves out there across the ward, which will be important. So for next month, and going forward, do we have some ideas in terms of prospective speakers for future events?
Is this unconventional to do? It's not a speaker one, but, and I know it's in the evening because now it gets dark at like 6 something.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I'm not going to propose that idea for this. I'll talk about it later because I don't want to confuse things. I don't want to. But as it relates to speakers, so let me actually answer your question. I have my other ideas for later. I'm trying to think of something that might be, for example, in June is the Supreme Court decision on Roe, right? And there's some other things coming up, the Supreme Court and Congress. But I'm just trying to think of hot topics. One of the organizations that I do work with, they were able to, and I'm not saying we know anybody, but we are in DC, so we might, had a conversation with an actual Russian about what things look like on the ground there. Not like support Russia or support Ukraine, right? Like it wasn't like that. It was more like, this is what's happening here as a result of, the civil unrest. Well, it's actually a war, the war that's happening. Between, it's not civil unrest, it's more than that, between Russia and Ukraine. So it was interesting to just get that perspective. And again, he wasn't saying support Russia or support Ukraine. And I think with DC being such an international city, right, that might be cool. But I'm just trying to think of, as Monica always says, some things that folks might be interested in outside of voting.
Yeah.
Like actual hot topic issues happening around the country. And right now, or even someone to talk about, and we would have to make sure it's not so boring, but like the economics of gas prices, right? Like not who's to blame for the gas prices, but like, how does this work? So when the gas prices go up, what is that the result of? And again, not getting into this policy, like very academic conversation, but and what is maybe the future of gas prices, right? Yeah. When do gas prices go up? When do they come down? So getting someone who's like an economist on environment, that type, oil pricing and things like that. And again, all of this is informational. I know we're Democrats, but I think sometimes people just want information that's not partisan. Like who's at fault, who's the big bad wolf. It's more of just, this
trusted
is
source.
Happening.
Yeah, they want a trusted source.
Correct.
To cut through all the news chatter, to cut through all the
news chatter
on TikTok.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of, I could just think of Russia, Ukraine, gas prices people are really upset about. I'm just trying to think of things that are not immediately associated with voting, voting.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, I think, because I saw an article today about some local businesses. I want to say it's in Arlington, but there's one called it was called Russian Gourmet, and they literally like took the Russian half of their sign off and have rebranded themselves as European Gourmet.
Because people are discriminating against
because of the backlash. And and they're more of a pan-European market anyway. But and then they mentioned the folks at Dacha Beer Garden, because the owners are Russian, but a lot of the staff and the majority of the staff are Ukrainians.
That's horrible.
And they're actually like raising money to help people in Ukraine.
Sure.
So that might be, and I think technically they might be just out of Ward 2. There might be, I'm trying to remember up that way. But anyway,
it would be interesting to hear from them, because like I said, the org that I do some work with that had on the guy who lives in Russia, he's gay and has been gay since, it's not cool now to be gay living in Russia, but he has been, since it's been decades. He's older than me and has had a partner, and he lived during the USSR, right? So, he had so many different stories to tell of like Russia then, what it's up to now. But it was really about how the people on the ground are living, not the government stuff, right? It was like, how are the people on the ground being impacted? And one of the things he talked about, Juan, was the discrimination of Russians. I didn't think about it as it related to like inside our country or other countries outside of Russia. I think Putin is garbage, but I would never think to discriminate against a Russian, like a person, you know what I mean? So that is interesting that this business has had some backlash.
Yeah, it's getting
wow.
It's getting a little dicey across the country.
And you're saying that the owner, the owners are Ward 2.
I saw in the, I want to say it was DCist or WTOP, but they were mentioning Dacha Beer Garden has come up but the owners are Russian and the majority of the staff are Ukrainians, and they're all kind of like, they're both kind of in the same situation where it's like they don't want this happening, and they're raising money, and they've been raising money for to help the Ukrainians. Yeah. But I think that if I'll inquire to see if I can find that article, but it might be interesting to bring that. Oh, actually, you know what? The owner of Russia House up on Connecticut Avenue.
Oh yeah.
I'm acquainted with him because our kids were at Ross very briefly.
Okay.
But his restaurant got vandalized.
Yeah, I was gonna say they had broken windows, I believe.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't think any of the owners are Russians at all. Like they're just fans of the food and vodka. Like it's just a concept for them. But and obviously they attract members of the Russian community.
Yeah.
But they got vandalized. But
and you're saying they are not. You're saying the owners are not Russian.
That I know of. Don't quote me, but I know my friend is one of the partners. But I don't think his partner. The other partners are Russians.
Okay.
But they've had that, they've owned that forever. It's been around forever.
I know. I'm familiar with Russia House. Yeah. Okay. I just think that could be an interesting, because we all are in this city bombarded with what CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, like with all the politicians, what everybody is saying.
Yeah, so and it's a delicate
it's definitely interesting out of the box topic. Just two things came in my mind, and we can think about this more later. So we don't have to plan for May. So we're really talking about April, right? April and June before we go on our summer hiatus.
Right. Yeah.
Unless something's juicy happening in the city. April is Asian Pacific Month Islander. Yeah. So we have Chinatown, what's left of Chinatown, in our ward. Yeah. So, and that's just one aspect of, Asian, but just, I don't know. And I'm just throwing that out there as a theme or topic, a speaker, someone about the community.
I like that.
What does the community need from us as a party? How do they get their voice? I don't know.
No, that's good.
But that's just something interesting. And then my other suggestion, being on this Ward 2 redistricting, I thought I knew Ward 2. I've been here all my life. There's so much I don't know about Ward 2. And I think I get to meet great people like Paul. We meet weekly. We've been meeting weekly since February. So, I can't talk about the amount of time we've spent on this. But I just think if we think about communities to focus on, whether it's businesses, whether it's community programming within, just to kind of like highlight leaders, political leaders that live in congressional leaders.
Monica, I'll do you one better. We have all these books, right, about DC, like Chocolate City and everything, that takes even the what do we all call it, guys, the trail things that they have up all over the city,
like, those, yes,
the signs that tell you about the different areas. So there's actually a path that you can walk so that you run into all of those signs. It's available somewhere. But anyway, my point is, I know we have some of them around Ward 2. Monica, I think we could incorporate, for example, DuPont Circle. What is the history of, like, what's going on with DuPont Circle? What is the history of DuPont Circle? What is it? Logan Circle, Scott Circle, where I live, Georgetown. All of us live these places, right? Chinatown. What is the history of Chinatown? That will allow people to learn more about the community where they live, but then also you invite a leader or an older, wiser person or a young person who just happened to do the research, who knows about that community and how that community has transitioned over time, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I think the leader aspect is a good idea, but they would have the opportunity to speak about also the area in which they have been a leader. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I like that, but I like the expert, you almost say, but I like also having someone there with an answer. So if we're talking about immigration, that we have someone from DC government or someone to speak on immigration. I see. Like we're trying to talk about, because one thing that came out, and I hate necessarily recording our meeting. I think sometimes we do need to meet without making them public meetings. But I did get heated in some of the parts of our Ward 2 redistricting about certain pockets feeling left out of this redistricting.
Sure.
And so I just think I say it all the time, that we need to try to give voice to those of color in Ward 2. And however we do that, or however, moving forward, to value that the churches that are being run out of Ward 2, but the historically Black churches, things like that. But just to keep it simple, what can we do in April?
I think you brought up Chinatown.
Yeah, I think
we could get a leader. We could get a leader out of Chinatown, and then we can talk about the history of Chinatown. Because
China, I'll do you one better. Walk down your block to the Chinese American Museum. It's right down the street from you.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It was the Chinese American Museum. It's on 16th Street. It's literally on the other side of Scott Circle. I just remembered it.
You are right.
So
I know where you're talking
down 16th Street. It's on. If you're going toward the White House, it's on the right-hand side.
I know where you're talking about, Wash.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I have seen them.
And given that your name is China,
yes, I get in.
I think you need to make the introduction.
Well, then Monica, I don't know how everyone else feels about it, and I'll walk over there and talk to them.
But I think, if we can have somebody to give us like a historical perspective, they would be great. Yeah. But I think they could totally use the opportunity to kind of showcase the fact that they're there, because they're kind of off the beaten path when it comes to museums. They've gotten a good amount of press, but unfortunately, they were opening around, if I remember correctly, around the time that COVID hit.
Oh no! So
if I remember correctly, it's kind of a double whammy in terms of them just literally having to close and then suffering from all this anti-Asian, rhetoric.
Yeah, Asian hate. Yeah.
But I think that would be a good opportunity for us to connect with them, because they're literally right around the corner from you and I.
I agree.
And then maybe
And-
we can
and-
identify somebody from Chinatown, like a Chinatown leader, to give their,
To Monica's point.
like somebody
Yeah.
who's Asian and if we could find it, a DC native.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay, well then, so what I'll do is I'll go up, that's easy. I'll even probably just go tomorrow to the museum to see what's up with them and being willing to, I'm sure the answer is yes. I mean, this is part of what they do, right? Like talk about their museum and like they have a person there that does community relations, right? So I will talk to them about that. And let me talk to Monica a little bit more because yeah, then we go over to Chinatown and get someone who's Chinatown, DC native. I mean, there are owners of restaurants that I know have been there since forever that could talk about even the history of Chinatown in DC and how it's changed over the blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, okay. I think that's a great idea. Monica, that was a great idea.
Yes.
I think we have to talk about the issue of all the problems they've been having as a result of COVID and all that kind of backlash, and where that stands and what we can do about it, because even though the historical, I mean, we are a political organization. That's where we can put our input into it.
Oh, no, I agree. I mean, I am going to, so what we have to do, of course, is bring it like, I'm sure they're like, okay, well, what do you think we should talk about? And I'll bring it up. But we can't say, well, you have to talk about Asian hate. You know what I mean? Like that. They all have to feel comfortable.
But I'm talking about the program.
No, I know. Yeah.
But I think, it'll be a good opportunity to, well, it's kind of like what the Latino Caucus was able to do for Hispanic Heritage Month several months ago. But the DC History Museum did a great talk about Latin women and Blackness back in October, which was really revelatory. And it was talking about the community in DC from as far back, I think, as the 1920s. So nearly 100 years. But if we're able to kind of, talk about that and kind of remind people like the Asian community's been here, because they've all been here. They're just not here in varying sizes, in terms of population. But I think that'll be good. But Susie raises a great point. I mean, we can't touch upon the history without, and especially recent history, without discussing Asian hate. But it also dovetails with what Monica was saying, that we have to kind of highlight excluded voices.
Right.
Because to be totally frank, I mean, as a Latino, I'm very sensitive to, people that are not native English speakers and the city's ability to communicate with them or not.
Right.
So the more that we can help facilitate that and kind of bring that into the forefront, the better. And I know, from my talk to some folks in the Asian community, they still feel left out as well. And the Eritrean community as well. So, this is something that affects a lot of people. But.
Monica, does that sound good to you then? Like bringing in the folks from the museum and then bringing in a leader in Chinatown to talk about, you're on mute, hon. Oh, she's on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, no, but I think
I just always, I sound like Charles Wilson when I come up with all these ideas. As long as we can connect it to a political, the party, something with the party. Like this isn't just, I mean, we're still a political organization.
Yeah.
So if it's something, and that's why I was like, if we could connect someone that is in the city, we got these elected officials that are supposed to be, doing the jobs, that they could come with something like, what is it? And I guess that's why we have to talk to the leaders prior to the event.
That's right.
Like basically, from my understanding, some of Chinatown's been cut out of Ward 2. I know we lost Mount Vernon. Is it Mount Vernon Square? It's one area that was cut out too, down that area. Is that Mount Vernon Square?
No, we're keeping that. Austin was saying.
Oh, we're keeping that. But I just think, I mean, to me, the fact that housing, I mean, I don't know. Whatever the issue is.
Oh, yeah, no, they could definitely talk. Oh, I see what you're saying. So if the person from Chinatown comes to talk about the strife that has been happening, then we need to bring from the city to talk about what they are doing to better the situation for, I see. Okay.
Or or let the Asian Pacific Democratic Group that's in DC Dem speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you could invite the leader of, I don't know who it is now, but I know Kitchen's one of them.
And
Yeah,
this is
Kitchen's
for,
one, yeah.
and this is for May.
This would be for April.
Okay, so
So
next step,
April's Asian
Is it
Pacific
April or is
Islands.
it May, Asian Pacific month?
hold on,
Alright.
let's see.
Let me do a quick Google.
I
And you
guess
should definitely talk to the Mayor's Office of Asian and Pacific Islanders. It's like MOA-PIA is the acronym, but
Okay,
they would probably promote it on her Twitter.
Oh, May.
it's May.
But we could,
It is May.
but we could say it's April because we already have a political event. I mean, it's still, we just can't, it's like Black History. You don't want to talk about Black History just in Black. in
Yeah, I don't think it
February.
matters when we talk about it.
Yeah, because I
Okay,
mean,
well,
yeah.
Well,
then-
let's
Well,
start the
if
conversation.
it's towards the end of the month, of April, I mean, maybe we can sort of talk about it as a
Aaliyah.
leader.
yeah, a leader.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're right.
so let me do this then. I can talk to the museum because it's right here. So I'll go over there tomorrow, walk over there and talk to them there because I'm sure they have community relations. All museums do, they have to because they want people to come in and explore the museum. So I'll talk to them and I'll at least touch base with, and I'll copy you, Juan, since you're the president, with the mayor's person, with the office of
Okay.
Asian Pacific Islanders. I'll make sure to copy you. And then, and I could BCC everyone else, actually. I don't mind including. And yeah, because what we should do, because it is going to be next month, is go ahead and figure out what dates they'll be available. Like we should go ahead and figure out, like, give me 2 or 3 dates from the museum person and from the mayor's person, and then from, you know what I mean, like already get on folks, get a date.
Well, tentatively, let's shoot for the April meeting date at the very least, which is,
Which one is that? Yeah.
give me a second. The April meeting, our April meeting date is one, two, three. The next meeting is the 18th of April.
Yeah, it was already on my calendar. You're right, it is. Oh, that's tax day too. All right, so what I will do is I'll reach out to them. I'll propose April 18th.
Mhm.
But now, since I see it's tax day, we can also just think about it in our minds. We could do this part on email because I know we're running close to time. There might be a conversation around, right, like taxes and stuff that we could do too for April, right? Since we actually happen to be having a meeting on tax day.
The next one, the 25th.
I'm sorry, Susie?
That's doing it the next month, the 25th.
April 18th?
No, 25.
Oh, she's saying the following week is the 25th. Is that what you're saying? April 25th?
Yes. Yes. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
You're saying we should do the meeting on April 25th?
If the 18th is bad, do it on the 25th.
No. I was saying, Susie, no, I'm not saying the 18th is, oh, I see what you're saying. If I propose to them the 18th and they say they cannot do the 18th, to then propose to them the 25th.
Right.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So just out of respect for everybody's time, it's not 8 o'clock. Very quickly, any new business?
The only thing I wanted to bring up, and this is for what I was saying, I didn't want to confuse things. Because the weather is nice, I think having something at DuPont or Logan Circle, Scott Circle isn't really conducive to it, but having like a little meet your Ward 2 neighbors, something very informal at one of the parks. Yeah.
So I'll send you the article, but the DuPont Circle Farmers Market is expanding.
What does that
And
mean?
they're expanding along Mass Avenue.
Oh my God.
And they're going to be adding a day during the week now. They're going to be adding, I think, a Thursday from like 3 to 7 or something.
Oh my God.
So I just saw the article. I'll forward it to everybody. But actually, I think I posted it this morning on the feeds, on our feeds. I'm almost certain. But yeah, so that might be a good opportunity to kind of hey, get to know them, and like, hey, well, congratulations, yada yada yada.
That's a good. So doing it in connection with something that's already going on, because the people will already be there, and it can.
And our Wednesday night farmers market in Georgetown is packed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I think
it's two things. Those are two different events.
Yeah.
And it's only Wednesday nights, Monica?
It's Wednesdays. And I mean, Alice, I remember Alistair when he was running, use that as a.
Where is the farmer's market?
At the Rose Park, at Rose.
Oh, okay,
Rose Park,
yeah.
On the side, on the tennis courts. And they have sometimes they'll have like a ballerina. Or they'll have music. So we pick a good night with some action, but it's always, and it's not by any means a DuPont Circle type of event, but it's definitely you get Ward 2 who doesn't typically come to stuff, you get just a different group of people over on this side of town. So that's a thought. I definitely think the farmers market is a good idea, but what I just know, the farmers market at DuPont attracts a lot of
Ward 2. Yeah,
and even DC residents, because I helped Robert last year, and a lot of people just.
Well, Monica, let's start with Georgetown.
Yeah, Georgetown might be. Well, you know what? And to be totally honest, most of us are from this side of the ward anyway. So.
And I know, Brian, if you tell us the night that Brooke is there, we could do. She could join us, because I know Brooke goes certain nights.
Okay.
That we could just make it a Dems night.
She also goes to DuPont Circle.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, I'm sure that and I'm sure there are other things too. But I'm just, when it gets kicked, when it kicks off and gets, like July or like like when it's hot.
Ryan, can you? So then let's so we have a to-do on it and like a milestone, so we know to keep it going. Brian, can you please let us know when is the first time or next time Brooke will be at the Georgetown one, and then we'll plan it around that.
Because it hasn't started yet.
I know. No,
yeah.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, and then I'll send around.
There we go.
Yeah, and I'll send around the DuPont.
There's also a farmer's market in Foggy Bottom.
And when is that? What day of the week?
I can't remember. It hasn't started yet, but it's starting up.
I think that was a Tuesday, I think.
Is it the same? Because I know like Columbia Heights, when I was there, is it the same like community organization, big umbrella group that does all of them, or are they all different?
The majority of them are Fresh Farm, yeah.
Fresh Farm.
I want to say Columbia Heights might be a different organization, but the majority, so DuPont, the one down on Station Dubai, the White House.
Yeah.
I think all the other ones are Fresh Farm. Fresh Farm is actually, I think, the third largest market, producer in the country.
Oh, okay.
They're pretty large.
All right. Well, then let's to Susie adding on the other two. Let's ping Brian, because Brian had to jump off.
Yep.
And shoot him an email and say quickly, just, hey, Brian, could you let us know Brooke's schedule for all of the farmers markets? That way he could get it all to us at once. And if she changes.
That's a great idea, because you know what? If we do the farmers market as kind of something that we can kind of rotate in and out of on a regular basis, we're in Foggy Bottom, we're in Georgetown, we're in DuPont.
Yeah.
So it gets us around. And we have folks that are based there.
Yeah.
That, can become that local contact.
Yeah.
For our group there, which is great. Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, everybody, great meeting. Good seeing you all. But if there's nothing else,
just keep us posted on the Ward 6 thing and how we can help. And if you want me to call N Street, could you ask them, if they would like us to make it a donation drive as well? I don't want to call N Street unless we really want to do it. So when you do the plan,
I'll talk to them about that.
And then I can find out what products they need.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'll start on that first thing tomorrow. But with that, I will let everybody go. Thank you very much for your time and all your hard work. I know everybody's incredibly busy. But when things lighten up after April 1st, for Monica and the team at the task force, let's try and get together like human beings and have a cocktail.
Absolutely.
Please.
I'm down for that.
I miss seeing you guys in person. All right.
Likewise.
Have a great night. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.